Proof. Proof, proof, proof. That's what a lot of people say they have for things. And a lot of times in boxing, we don't really get. But now, I think we do. Answering the question of whether or not a certain Jaron Boots Ennis was avoiding a fight with Terence Bud Crawford. And the answer, it appears, is no. Just like I told you. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, we're going to put a fork in one of the most ridiculous rumors that we had during the year of 2023, and one that appeared to hold over into 2024. And it is this ridiculousness that Jaron Ennis ducked Terence Crawford. And now you have Stephen Espinoza, who was at the time over Showtime Sports, shed light on something that there was no need to shed light on if you had common sense. But apparently, you know the saying, common sense ain't so common. And people believe whatever they want to believe about certain circumstances. Now, before I get into the details, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you're a longtime subscriber and supporter, thank you so much for your continued support. It really makes a big difference to the channel. Can't tell you how much I appreciate you. But let's get into this, because I'm really happy that this, something that was very obvious to me can now be obvious to other people, which is that Showtime Boxing was never going to make a fight between Jaron Ennis and Terence Crawford in the year of 2023, and that despite rumors and accusations that Jaron Ennis ducked Terence Crawford, that is absolutely positively not true. And let's go through the facts, then I'll get to what Stephen Espinoza said. First, maybe around in between the first fight and the second fight, in between the fight with Terence Crawford and David Avenetian and the first Errol Spence Jr. fight, I did a video in which Jaron Ennis, after Jaron Ennis had said, hey man, I would be willing to go to BLK Prime or anywhere to fight Terence Crawford. There was videos put out by other channels, other people that said, hey man, that's not true. BLK Prime never offered Jaron Ennis a fight with Terence Crawford on BLK Prime. Fast forward a couple months, and then all of a sudden, there was a report out that that was substantiated that after that point in time, after November of 2022, that BLK Prime had contacted through a representative of theirs, reached out to Bozy Ennis, the trainer of Jaron Ennis, and the father of Jaron Ennis, and said, hey man, if Terence Crawford said, we asked Terence Crawford if he would be interested in a fight with you, would you be interested? And he said, yeah, but we have a contract with Showtime, and Showtime's our partner. We would need for you to talk to Showtime. They talked to Showtime, and and the discussion with Showtime and BLK Prime fell apart, and the fight didn't take place. This has now been confirmed by that. Well, it was confirmed originally that conversation did take place, and Stephen Espinoza said the conversation did take place. However, people kept saying that that it was Jaron Ennis that was ducking Terence Crawford, that he could have made that fight, but he didn't want that fight. And now you have Steven Espinoza double downing and saying, no, Showtime was not going to make that fight. So in a scenario where Showtime was not going to make a fight with Jaron Ennis, and why would Showtime not make a fight with Jaron Ennis in between November of 2022 and July of 2023? Because very obviously, they were in negotiations to make a fight between Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. Only somebody that is just really, really, really oblivious to what was going on in boxing and how widespread that conversation was and how daily that conversation, how that conversation was taking place on a daily basis for the fight between Errol and Terence, would they have believed that Showtime would, at the same time that they're trying to get that done, put a break on all of them and get a fight going on between Jaron Ennis and Terence Crawford? Equally, I think people looking at what Terence Crawford has said about Jaron Ennis since he beat Errol Spence should also think that it is ludicrous that Terence Crawford was actually engaging in negotiations or interest in fighting Jaron Ennis instead of Errol Spence Jr. It made no sense. But now that you have it verified that that Showtime didn't want that fight, which should have been obvious to everybody, and it's also very, very clear now that Jaron Ennis was with Showtime, that he had an agreement with Showtime. Now, people said, well, Showtime said he didn't have a direct contract with Showtime. Well, he had a direct contract with his promoter, who was Cameron Duncan, and Cameron Duncan in Boxing Now put him on that network. Please notice who was not involved in this discussion between Jaron Ennis and Terence Crawford's camp. The person that was not involved in it was Cameron Duncan. So, number one, the promoter wasn't involved in the conversation, the actual person that had the contract with him, but that guy did have a deal with Showtime. And we have to assume that's true because that's the only network that Jaron Ennis had fought on for several years. They didn't just put him on there with absolutely no agreement in place, even if it wasn't written, because you, again, can have agreements that are not written, but that are not written down. There's only certain types of agreements that have to be written, ones that are listed in the statute of fraud in the state that the state that the parties are involved in, or federal. I think there's a federal statute of frauds. Don't quote me on that. And then you have real property, things dealing with real property. Those things, houses and such, have to be in writing. But other than that, you can have somebody do hey, this is what I'm going to give you. This is what I want. Okay, I did it. Now give me what I deserved. And they can do it and do it over and over again. But the idea that Jaron Ennis, and this is just, to me, should be an insult to anybody's intelligence, that Jaron, if they ask you to believe this, that Jaron Ennis was and Terence Crawford, either one of them were in a position to fight each other during that time frame. Those guys did not get in a position to fight one another, really in a position to fight one another, until after Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford decided that they were not going to rematch, which my understanding happened around the beginning of this year. But I'm sure, every time somebody puts a video out or talks about Jaron Ennis and Terence Crawford, people want to pour water on the fight, pour water on Jaron Ennis by calling him a duck and saying he had an opportunity to fight him. That's why I try so hard on this channel to give a definition to the phrase, to that word ducking, because people throw it around just throw it around in the air at any and everything that takes place that they don't like. Anytime a fight doesn't take place that they want to see, then they just immediately go to that fighter's ducking that fighter. It's way too simple a scenario. Too simple an explanation or a definition for that particular accusation. Anyway, that's my take on the matter. Please let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.